ॐ सूर्याय नमः। ॐ आर्यम्ने नमः। ॐ भगाय नमः। ॐ विवस्वते नमः। ॐ दीप्तांशवे नमः।
Pythagoras is considered the father of Greek philosophy. So he's a huge figure. We don't have any of his written works. If he did write works, we don't know if he wrote works, but we don't have anything written by him. But we do have Socrates and Plato and others who are his followers. So the big names in Greek philosophy owe everything they say to Pythagoras. And it's interesting that Plato, in some of his writings, say that the Greeks, Greek thought, their idea was that it's independent. Thought is independent, and Greek thought is more independent and better than anybody else's. But Plato says that whatever the Greeks have, they owe it to the barbarians. That's you. Just so we get things in perspective here. But the Greeks ultimately made it better and ignobled it. So this is the xenophobia coming out. So they got these ideas because everyone in all the Greek philosophers from Pythagoras all point to the fact that he got his wisdom from India. There's this connection. India is always mentioned, and the word Brahman is always mentioned as well. And there are tremendous similarities between Pythagoras' philosophy and practice and Brahminical culture. We don't know if he went to India. We know he went to Egypt, but
many lives. Your job, if you will, your assignment, if you choose to take it, right, is slowly but surely to dissipate the boundary between your circle and the circle of the divine. So that the oneness you already have, right, but because of the illusions of life and because of the karmic muck that we mentioned last week, right, that accrues on us as we do bad things and fail to do good things, right, as you straighten that out, as you lose that, as it dissipates, right, in your life, in your lives, you come to experience who you have been all along, from your very first life.
There's not one king in India, they're provincial kings. And to expand his land, the king would do the horse sacrifice annually, or not annually, but whenever he wanted to expand his land. So the idea was you take one of your prize horses and you send 100 of your warriors with it and you just let it roam. And this is genius in one way and bizarre in another. You just let it roam. So the warriors are like following the horse around. And of course, wherever the horse goes, that's your land. Awesome. Except not everyone's going to agree to that. So another king who's about to lose land to the horse sacrifice king says, hey, I'm not going to stand for this. And so he must fight the warriors. And so he wins or loses, whatever. The borders are redrawn according to where the horse goes. And the warriors win. It's fascinating. When the horse returns after a year, there's an elaborate sacrifice. The horse is dressed up. The queen's court addresses the horse in a way that would embarrass Quentin Tarantino. The early accounts, the reports of the horse sacrifice are self-censored because the missionaries and travelers who saw it just couldn't bring themselves to repeat the language during the horse sacrifice that's addressed to the horse. And in fact, the horse is sacrificed and the queen literally copulates with the severed horse penis. So Vedic religion.
The diversity of India has always been there, has always been legendary in some sense. The many streams of culture and language and life that have taken place in this area. And yet, is it just an area? Is it just a piece of the map, basically, that is this sort of triangular peninsula that sticks out into the Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea? No, I mean, there has been for a long time a sense that this is a cultural area that belongs together despite and perhaps because of all the difference. Did it matter that the chief ritual specialists of the Badrinath temple traditionally came from Kerala and spoke a different language than North Indian? Not really. I mean, this is part of what has brought this culture together, that there have been these sinews of mythology and geography and narrative and a sense of unity that doesn't have anything to do with uniformity, a unity that comes out of its diversity.
Right.
Become a politician. Any sign of failure, become a politician. So it's interesting, you're saying they're quite subjective. It's very interesting that when we start to talk about it as a group, what is an idea of success for me might be an idea of failure for somebody else, and vice versa. Just an interesting observation. And actually, we'll find that in Hindu scripture, it's exactly the same. That life is replete with success and failure. It's just one success and failure moment after another. And we can measure our lives in moments of success and failure. That's one perspective we can take on it. And Hindu scripture, and possibly all scripture, mirror the human condition. They actually analyze the human condition very interestingly. That's one reason why we're interested in their discourse and their conclusions and their stories. But Hindu scripture has a surprising amount of failures in its stories and in its characters. And we read scripture, as I said, for enlightenment and inspiration, etc. But if you read about someone's failure, it's not what you'd look to normally for enlightenment. So what is it we're getting from these stories? Often of failure.